Our communities keep us young.
We're just here for each other. You can just go through the different friendship things.
But loneliness is becoming an epidemic.
Being a bit of a loner, I knew that it was toxic, and I saw this as an answer to that.
These Zoomers are fighting back.
I was looking for a space as I prepared to retire where I could still be useful.
On today's show, the social connection. We are social creatures. Our relationships with our families, friends, and community members are important to our emotional and physical well-being. But in 2020, nearly 1 in 5 Canadians over the age of 65 reported feeling lonely. And that's bad news. The effect of loneliness on longevity has been compared to that of smoking, obesity, and physical inactivity. So as our social circles get smaller, what can we do to maintain a vibrant community? Today we're going to meet Zoomers who are staving off loneliness and forging new connections as they age. First up is a multi-generational co-housing complex in Vancouver. From Zoomers to Gen Alpha, we're going to meet some like-minded neighbors who are living together as a community. Co-housing. Describe to me exactly what co-housing means.
That is confusing because a lot of people think of co-op housing. This was not given government funding. We found land, we hired an architect, and we hired builders. And we built according to what we wanted and needed. We wanted windows and spaces where we had a lot of face time.
Our neighbors were not so happy that we were dropping in like a spaceship from outer space with this, something that they had never seen before either. And it took 4 years for it to go from concept to fruition. February 26, 2016, we moved in.
The whole point is that our units, our individual units, are as small as possible to just have the things that we need every day. Things that we don't use constantly are in our common house. So I have 450 square feet, and it is designed for me to stay here as long as possible. Instead of using this space over here as a bedroom space, I made it into my living room space. As I would on a boat or a train, I sleep in a cubby.
We have 31 units. I think there are 73 people who live here. 22 are children.
Co-housing is different all over the place. There's quite a bit of seniors co-housing. We wanted intergenerational co-housing so that we could have lots of kids around. This is Dash.
Nice to see you, sir. So I hear you're going to give me a tour.
I am.
Okay. So lead on, I'll just follow.
Here we have the garden.
Beautiful. Look at these flowers. Does it make you want to garden when you see this?
Not really.
No? You just like to eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are mostly individual plots. Lots of the upper units don't have their own space, so they get a plot here or down below and do what they want to do with it.
Oh, there's a ripe one.
That's a lot.
You can have that.
Ooh. Wow.
All your hard work today.
When we moved in, he was 3, and there were so many kids also that were around the same age, which was amazing because he always had people and kids to play with, just like out his front door and in the courtyard.
Here we have all kinds of little kids growing up, and you get the pleasure of, like there's a dear little guy next door, and my husband Cam loves to hold him and make ohm sounds, and they peacefully just bliss out together.
It's so easy to just like come out, there's someone hanging out and kids playing around. So just watching the kids is so easy for him to be entertained. I don't have to like wrap my mind about what to do.
A playroom.
Oh my. This is a serious playroom. And we have a demo. Oh, she's good. You're good. So tell me what happens in here.
Kids use it for blaster fights sometimes.
Bessie, come on, let's do a yoga class. Suck it in and lift. There you go. I'll follow you. Ta-da! Well done. Every week, the residents get together for a communal dinner. This week, chefs, Ian and Monty.
We took a fresh prep recipe that called for chicken, and we took the chicken out and put in tofu. So we built a salad from all our local greens, and we added tortilla chips.
Being single and a bit of a loner, I knew that it was toxic to be alone.
Because it is true that we need community in order to thrive, but it's difficult for introverts to go find it and to sustain it and to cultivate it. So how wonderful that you can just come in, home, go downstairs and see who's around to have a chat with.
Yeah, so we can be as private as we want to, and as social as we want to. So there are things built into the design for socialization.
In co-housing, there's something for everybody to do. No matter what their ability is, they can participate and be part of the work that needs to go on here. The challenge of living with a whole variety of different people and having to adjust to their ways keeps my way of being more open.
There's a difference between being lonely and socially connected. Those small interactions are important.
We're on a mission to learn how social connectivity helps us stay healthy as we age. Joni Sims-Gould is the Executive Director of the Active Aging Society. I've invited her to join me here at Vancouver Co-Housing to understand how her research is changing the way we look at longevity.
I'm Executive Director of the Active Aging Society, and we are committed to keeping people active and connected as they age. I also wear the hat of Principal Scientist of the Active Aging Research Team at UBC, and we look at studying and implementing evidence-based programs to keep people active and connected as they age.
What happens to a person when you actually have more community come into your life?
So there's a body of research around the deleterious consequences of loneliness. And right now in Canada, we know that 1 in 5 older people indicate that they're lonely. And the science tells us that being lonely is as deleterious to your health as smoking. That for people who indicate that they're lonely, they have 30% higher all-cause mortality. There's a difference between being lonely and socially connected. For some people, they need to be socially connected not to be lonely. Sometimes people are not lonely and they're not socially connected and they're just fine, and that's okay too. But those small interactions, even for everybody, are important.
In your estimation, what do you think about this place?
I think that this place is just such an incredible example of creating an environment to support people to be active and connected as they age. And when I say age, of course, I mean across the lifespan. And my work has been in the later years, and I see this as particularly beneficial from a research perspective in supporting people to be active and connected. And I think that there are a number of elements that facilitate that here. Access to green space, so the gardening, it provides an opportunity for folks to engage in some physical activity, some camaraderie. The shared spaces with programming like the kitchen, the movement room, even the laundry, where people can have those incidental conversations is really, really important to supporting people's opportunity to be connected. I see a lot of joy here, and of course I always look at things sort of through that health promotion lens, and again those opportunities for people to connect and to be active. And I watched an older member of the community walk around and just pick up some of the children's toys, and that person remarked, "This is keeping me flexible." And so again, I think any way we can sneak in opportunities for people to move, it's going to support people's health and well-being. By the time somebody hits the healthcare system, we've missed a lot of opportunity to provide better support. And if we can back it up to communities like this, where we can have individuals engaged and connected and active, we are going to circumvent the cost of care later on and really support people where they are.
Up next, we're going to see how animal companionship can have enormous benefits to our well-being. But first, our regular segment with Chef Julian Bond. He's back in the kitchen with healthy, affordable, and Zoomer-friendly recipes.
Hi everybody, welcome to Granville Island here in the heart of Vancouver. One of the busiest food markets in North America, but it's also one of the best. So I'm looking for pine nuts. Normally when you buy pine nuts, you have to buy them in a giant bag. And pine nuts go rancid really, really quickly. So I'm gonna buy just a tiny little bag. These are Italian pine nuts. And did you know that pine nuts are actually an aphrodisiac? More so than oysters or chocolate. And we're gonna roast these, taste them together, have a little fun. This is such an easy dish. It involves pasta, boiling water, and in goes our fresh pasta. Do I cook it all? Well, shall see. Stir it gently till it comes back to a simmer. The sauce that we're serving it with today is actually a pesto. And pesto can be made from basil, it's got parmesan, it's got olive oil, but it's also got pine nuts, full of magnesium and zinc, and we got Parmesan cheese. So I'm gonna cook my pasta al dente, and why we say cook al dente is sometimes when you make pasta, you're gonna cook it in a secondary sauce. You're gonna add a tomato sauce or a white sauce. And that takes your pasta from al dente to being perfectly cooked by the time it reaches the table. We're gonna serve this with a cold sauce today, so I'm gonna give it al dente plus 30 seconds. I like to capture that water. Don't want to drain it too much. There we go. In goes our pesto. And I'm going to use all of my pesto. Or basil. Some people like to cook their pesto sauce. I don't believe it should ever be cooked. It's just for tossing your pasta. Then I'm going to put my pine nuts into my pasta. It's going to add another crunch. Again, we're staying with just pasta. We're not putting any meat in here because you don't have to. Okay. There we go. Time to serve. Our pasta is coated in the pesto. And then flair at the table is important. As you come along, each guest and you, great. And you don't be shy. A little fresh basil for garnish, and everyone's happy.
Here at Vancouver Co-Housing, we've seen how people have chosen a community that builds social connection. But for single Zoomers, finding intimacy can be challenging. we're going to meet a woman who turned to her pets for companionship.
This picture of David and Pretty Bird was before we adopted her, but if you look at the look on Pretty Bird's face, she knew that we were going to adopt her. So this is Pretty Bird. As long as I pay attention to her, that's what she's happy with. Pretty Bird.
After losing her husband David, widow Jane found solace and comfort in the most unlikeliest of places.
Pretty Bird would bite me regularly if I got anywhere near David. And so she needed to have her time with him, and I kept my distance, and we made it work. David and I actually kind of had a fairy tale story about how we met. He was the royal standard bearer in Selkirk, Scotland. That's where I met him when I was over visiting family and friends. When I got home, I sent him a picture that I had taken of him and wrote him a letter and sort of introduced myself and said, you know, would love to hear from you if you feel like writing me back, but I just thought this was a great photo. And next thing I know, well, actually 6 months later, he wrote me back. When we got married, we didn't tell anybody that we were getting married. We had planned to have an engagement party in Scotland and then a wedding in Canada. And we ended up deciding that we were going to get married first in Scotland. And so we only invited close family to the wedding and then had a big sign at the door that said, "Welcome to Jane and David's engagement party," and that was crossed off and it said wedding reception. And the next day we hit every major paper in Great Britain. I love that. How a horseman riding by led love-struck Jane to the altar. I remember once saying to, my friend Jan, if anything ever happens to David, I don't know what I'm going to do about Pretty Bird because I'm not going to even be able to take care of her. So the morning after he died, I went in to tell her, and she looked at me sideways, and she listened very intently. And then she said something that she'd never said before. She said, "Are you okay?" And from that moment on, she has been fine with me. I had gone out and had a few pictures of David and Pretty Bird blown up. And so when I came home, I showed her the one that's out there of David in his sombrero with Pretty Bird on his shoulder. And I said, "Look, there's Papa." And she cocked her head to one side and looked with one eye. And then she cocked her head with the other and looked at him with her other eye. And then she put her hand out, or her foot out to the picture for him to hold hands with her, which she really likes to do. And it just broke my heart. Anyways, animals grieve too, but she loved him. She was his bird. He was her person. When the World Parrot Refuge closed and Greyhaven stepped in to rescue the birds, I ended up talking to Jan about it, and she said that they were looking for volunteers in Nanaimo, and was I interested? We thought that would be perfectly safe because we had no desire to have birds. Famous last words.
Jane was a co-worker. She was working on Vancouver Island for the Alzheimer's Society. I was in Vancouver area, and we had started doing adoptions from this particular location. And so I said, they're looking for volunteers, Jane. She said, well, what the heck, it's close, I'll check it out. So she went there. The first day she was there, one of the birds said he loved her, and she phoned her husband, and she was, "David, you have to listen to this." And so she managed to hook David in as well. And the big joke with David after that was when I phoned her, it was like, "Don't listen to that woman. We're gonna get another bird if you pay attention to her." Okay, I just want to fix your collar here. There we go, okay. Parrots are flock creatures. And so in order to be a successful flock creature, you have to be highly attuned to the needs, to the emotions, and to the actions of your flock mates. And that meshes fairly nicely, really, with human beings, because that sort of, to a large extent, describes us. And so often people will feel a whole different level of emotional connectedness with a parrot compared to other pets that they've had in their life. And that would be one of the main reasons, is that they are so highly attuned.
Okay, That's my good boy. You know, I often say to people that if it wasn't for the animals, I don't know how I would have gotten through, because it meant that I did have to get up in the morning, I had to feed them. Whether I was worried about feeding myself or doing anything for myself, at that point I just didn't care, I was numb. But they kept me going. What are you doing? What I got for you. Every foot I put in front sort of helped me kind of move towards life without David. I don't think you ever get over it, but you learn to live with it. They just made, you know, a huge, huge impact on me.
Jane's story is a reminder of how, in unexpected situations, love and support can still find us. On Vancouver Island, Dean Atwell.
Well, that's just about it for the show. But first, a few words from Carpe President Rudy Boutignon.
Hi, I'm Rudy, President of the Canadian Association of Retired Persons. Staying emotionally and socially connected is important to good mental health. Animals are great companions. I had a cat named Steve, and he'd sit on my lap and we'd watch television together. And if I stayed up too late, he'd get really annoyed because he wanted to go to bed. And when Steve passed away at 19 years, I cried more for him than I have for some of my relatives. But there are many ways to stay emotionally and socially connected. And that's one of the advantages of joining a Carpe chapter. They're all across the country, and it's one way to share connections. If you're interested, check out our website at carpe.ca and join our movement.
Community and relationships don't have to be complicated. Let's all make the effort to pick up the phone and call someone. That alone will have tremendous health benefits. And that's the show. Remember, as our Carpe chairman Moses Neimer always says, the best way to keep going is to keep going. So carpe diem and seize your day.